dark castles, battles, noble knights in shining armor. That's the version of the Middle Ages Hollywood wants you to see. But behind the epic sword fights and royal intrigues, there was a very different world, one filled with disease, filth, strange beliefs, and hard labor. Let's uncover what life in medieval Europe was really like, especially the parts they never show you in movies. The medieval era spanned roughly from the 5th to the 15th century, but for most people, it wasn't about heroism or glory. It was about survival. This is what daily life truly looked like, from dirt and death to strange customs and class systems. The idea that medieval people were filthy and indifferent to hygiene is a modern myth. People did wash, using water from rivers, wells, or rain barrels. Bathhouses existed in many towns, especially in the early Middle Ages. Soap, though costly, was known and used. Linen undergarments were changed regularly to stay clean, especially among the wealthier classes. Even peasants understood the importance of basic cleanliness. Waste disposal wasn't lawless. Towns often had rules about dumping refuse, and in some cities there were designated collectors or street cleaners. Privies and chamber pots were common, even in rural areas. Toilets were basic, but not absent. Castles had vertical shafts. Peasants used outdoor pits or fields. Disease was widespread, not because of filth, but due to poor medical knowledge. People believed illness came from bad air or divine punishment, not germs. Monasteries preserved medical texts, and healers and midwives provided care with herbs and traditional methods. Hygiene was limited by the science of the time, but medieval people weren't unaware or careless. They worked with what they had, and many took cleanliness seriously. Most people were peasants, farmers bound to the land. They didn't own it. It belonged to a lord who took a cut of everything. Work was relentless. From sunrise to sunset, they toiled in fields using primitive tools. If crops failed, people starved. There was no backup. Homes were small and dark. Families slept on straw, often with animals nearby for warmth. Bread was the staple food. Meat was rare. Beer or watered wine was safer than water. In towns, tradespeople like blacksmiths or tanners lived with slightly better means, but life was still hard, dirty, loud, and dangerous. At the top were nobles and clergy. Lords lived off peasant labor. Monks had access to food, water, and written knowledge. There was no upward mobility. You were born into your class, and you stayed there forever. Marriage was practical, not romantic. Girls could be married off at 12. Their role, childbirth and housework. Most people didn't marry in churches. They simply made an agreement and started living together. Church weddings became more common much later. Childbirth was risky. With no medical care, many women died giving birth. Large families were common because few children survived long. Kids worked early, feeding animals, carrying water, gathering firewood. Play was rare and simple. Women had few rights. Men controlled property and decision-making. But in peasant families, women worked just as hard in the fields as men. Still, families stayed close. The household was a shared unit of survival and support. Religion shaped every part of life. People believed heaven and hell were real places, and salvation depended on obeying the church. The calendar was filled with saints' days, feast days, fasts, and rituals. People prayed daily. Sunday Mass was mandatory. But belief wasn't just religious, it was deeply superstitious. Illness was blamed on sin, failed crops, witchcraft, or divine punishment. People feared curses demons, and the evil eye. Most couldn't read. The Bible was in Latin. Priests controlled knowledge, and questioning them was dangerous. Still, people found comfort in ritual. Lighting candles, offering prayers, and following tradition gave order to a chaotic world. Life in medieval Europe wasn't only work and hardship. People celebrated, played, and found joy where they could. Religious feast days offered time off, often dozens of days per year. Villages gathered to eat, dance, and enjoy music during saints' days and seasonal festivals. Markets and fairs brought excitement. Merchants sold goods from afar, and entertainers, jugglers, musicians, storytellers filled the streets. Music was everywhere. Flutes, drums, and singing marked weddings, harvests, and holy days. Songs often told stories passed down for generations. Games and sports were common. Children played with wooden toys and balls. Adults held archery contests, wrestling matches, and wild, early versions of football. Taverns were more than drinking spots. They were social spaces, places to share news, gossip, and laughter. Even in a world full of uncertainty, people found moments of joy. Community and tradition gave meaning beyond survival. What we really miss about the Middle Ages. Movies love the glamour of knights and castles, but most medieval people were poor, tired, and struggling to survive, and yet they endured, built communities, held on to faith, raised children, passed down stories. Understanding their lives means looking beyond myths and seeing the world through their eyes. If that's the kind of history you want more of, subscribe. There's so much more to uncover, truths that are stranger than fiction.